December 30th, 2008, just outside Atlanta, Georgia, DeAndre Way, also known as Soulja Boy, was hanging out with friends, celebrating his second album. At first, everything felt easy and laid back. Then the front door slammed open, and masked men rushed in with guns, changing the course of his life forever. Here are 5 times wannabe gangsters messed with the wrong gangs. September 4th, 2012, in Englewood, Chicago, Joseph Coleman, known on the streets as Lil Jojo, hopped on the back of a friend's bike, rolling down 69th and Princeton. Hours earlier, he'd been online stirring trouble. Now things were about to go really bad. He was just an 18-year-old, cut down in a feud that spiraled way beyond music. Long before the feud, Joseph Coleman was born in Chicago on April 6, 1994, to his mother, Robin Wilson. His father's name was never made public, but what is known is that he was sent away for 13 years on an attempted murder charge, leaving Robin to raise Joseph mostly on her own. The family lived around 69th and Parnell Avenue, deep in Englewood, a neighborhood where gangs were said to have shaped daily life. It was no surprise that he gravitated toward the gangster disciples, specifically the Brick Squad faction, which put him on the opposite side of the Black Disciples. For decades, those two groups had been locked in a violent war across Chicago's South Side. And yet, Jojo didn't just inherit that rivalry, he actively stoked it. In 2012, Chicago's drill music was exploding onto the national stage. Chief Keef and his crew, 300, were aligned with the Black Disciples, and their raw lyrics about street life made them the face of drill. Jojo, still an up-and-coming rapper, wanted that same spotlight. But instead of waiting for his own lane, he decided to go straight at the biggest name in the city. That summer, Jojo released Harkin 300K, a track where he openly declared himself a Black Disciple killer. This track wasn't just a diss track, it was a death wish, and in Chicago, calling yourself BDK wasn't just rap bravado. It was a direct challenge to an entire gang known for ruthless violence. Jojo even went further by taunting Chief Keef, Lil Reese, and Lil Durk, mocking their affiliations with the Black Disciples. Now, while Keef himself wasn't some shot caller in their politics, his rising music career put him front and center in the spotlight. Suddenly, what had been a street rivalry between the BDs and GDs was spilling over into the public eye. Jojo wasn't just going after O Block either. He called out other BD sets like Lamron, 600, and even the larger alliance that called themselves 300. In his mind, this was all part of making a name for himself. What he miscalculated was how seriously his rivals took those words.
Yeah, City First, old dog, BDK. I keep them, took them down,
On social media, Jojo doubled up. He flaunted guns on camera, posted videos with his crew yelling BDK, and tagged rival rappers directly. To his fans, he looked like a fearless teenager taking on giants. Meanwhile, the Black Disciples didn't see it as a rap. They saw it as war. In September 2012, the tension reached a breaking point. That evening, Jojo was riding a friend's bike through his neighborhood when a car pulled up beside him. Witnesses said shots rang out, hitting him multiple times. He collapsed on the street, bleeding out. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. The aspiring rapper who tried to ride the wave of gang culture was gone.
Who do you think is responsible for your son's death?
Chief Keef.
Himself pulled the trigger?
I don't believe himself pulled the trigger. I believe he paid somebody to do it.
Within hours, speculation exploded online. Many pointed fingers at Chief Keef's camp, given the intensity of Jojo's dices. What made it worse was Chief Keef's reaction as he laughed about Jojo's death on Twitter, writing,
"It's sad cuz,"
followed by laughter emojis. Lil Reese also mocked him, further fueling the belief that Jojo's taunts had finally caught up with him. Police later investigated ties between JoJo's death and the gang war between the GDs and BDs, but no one was ever convicted. In Chicago's endless cycle of retaliation, his killing was just another tally on the scoreboard. After his death, his family insisted that JoJo was more than just a street rapper, that he had dreams and talents that went beyond the gang drama. And in many ways, they were right. But in the ruthless world of Chicago drill, JoJo's attempt to play gangster had consequences he couldn't escape. In the end, Lil JoJo wasn't killed because he was the toughest gangster in Chicago. He was killed because he pretended to be one against the wrong crew. And in a city where gang grudges run deep, that was a game he couldn't win.
Bro, so you telling me and everybody else from this month that you shot Nipsey Hussle?
I shot Nipsey Hussle. Gaston McWinnie, I shot Nipsey Hussle. Come get me. I shot him.
We told you, you laughing in it. Stop laughing in it.
They already didn't. Tell them to stop.
Bro. Okay. All right, stop. Crib, hold on.
Bro, Cut told you to stop. You shut your...
He told you.
On March 7th, 2024, police raided a house in Lakewood with the SWAT team. When the dust settled, they walked out with GBO Gaston in cuffs. The charges were heavy: armed robbery, kidnapping, and more. But honestly, that raid was just the law catching up. Long before the cops stepped in, Gaston had been playing a dangerous game, acting tough online, poking at real gangs, and stepping into circles that didn't see him as one of their own. His real name is Gaston McWinnie, and he didn't grow up where most gang stories begin. He was from Lakewood. His mom taught social studies at the local high school. His stepdad was a veteran who believed in discipline, and his biological dad lived in Watts, where gangs really run deep. So while he had ties to rougher neighborhoods through his dad, Gaston's childhood was stable. He played basketball, had family dinners, and even got plenty of support at home. But as a teenager, he turned away from all that, drawn to the street image he saw on Instagram and in rap. Gaston was chasing a gangster image he never really had, so he went from making Minecraft videos on YouTube under the name Zui to rebranding himself as GBO Gaston, the short form for Get Back Official, a crew that did not even exist. He came up with the name on his own, loosely connected to Hayter Avenue between Damo and Candlewood. For him, it wasn't about history or real street backing. He just wanted to look like he belonged in that world, so he went all in on Instagram Live, trash-talking gangs, clowning on rivals, and even mocking the dead, and that is where he started crossing serious lines.
You see the time and all that, 7:40 on a dead homie. You see the piss, finna throw piss on cut on a dead homie's cut, look. Piss on cut.
One of his worst moves was going after Nipsey Hussle's memory. In 2022, Gaston posted videos of the things he did at Nipsey's grave and photos. For a lot of people, especially the Rollin' 60s Crips, that wasn't just disrespectful. It was beyond forgiveness. Nipsey was a community figure, and disrespecting him meant disrespecting an entire legacy.
You see me the walking, right? Look, who am I? I can't walk because I shot. Shot is all his dead homie. Look, cars put it, I'm not even scared. Look around. You see any bagels? You see how they never outside? These niggas about to walk with a walker in their head.
But Gaston didn't stop with Nipsey. He dissed crews from Long Beach, Compton, and Watts, going after names like the East Side Black Bandits, mocking their dead, and even clowning a guy in a wheelchair on camera. He targeted the Bounty Hunters, the Grape Streets, and other sets with real reputations. He'd burn shirts belonging to Fallen members, spit on them live, and tag rivals by name. Online, he didn't just keep it to gangs. He aimed shots at public figures like Adam 22 from No Jumper and Whack 100, even showing up at their offices to urinate on the doorstep for clout. His main feud, though, was with Block Boy from Mapu and Compton. Things got real when Block Boy was shot in Lakewood, and Gaston went live afterward, laughing about it with associates like ABZ from Brick Boys and Treyway from Hoovers. He bragged about being part of it, even admitted on a stream that he fired shots himself, though he missed. To him, it was content. To everyone else, it was stepping way too far. The problem was that Gaston thought alliances would protect him. He tried linking with Hoovers because they didn't get along with Block Boy either, and he leaned on subsets from Northside Long Beach like the Brick Boys. But the Brick Boys weren't really with him. So, one day they lured him into a car like they were cool, then they turned on him. He barely escaped what he later called a setup, but it showed he was never safe, even around people he thought were allies. Another time, Crips caught him in public and pressed him on camera. The video went viral, proving once again that he was just a wannabe.
Be on the side, G. Throw it, G. Talking about we're the same. McQueen, unclear on me badly. On a fly in the city, Lakewood and all that. I'm a Crip.
He made things worse by switching sides constantly, claiming blood some days, and other days he was a Crip or was tied to other groups, which made him look fake, and both sides stopped respecting him. Meanwhile, rumors about his personal life started to pile up, accusations about his involvement with underage girls, stories about him being in a psych ward, and people online calling him out as a fraud. On top of that, his legal record stretched back years with burglary, forgery, car theft, drugs, and armed robbery. Now, instead of becoming a feared rapper who claimed blocks and mocked enemies, he built a list of people who wanted to check him. By 2024, the streets weren't his only problem anymore. The law had a long list of charges waiting for him, and that raid in Lakewood brought it all to a head. But looking at his story, it wasn't just about crime, it was about someone who tried to play gangster without the roots or backing, thinking the internet would protect him. Instead, it only made him easier to find.
A-Rap passed me the pistol. Bam, I look through the door. I see like 3 running through the crib, all black, mask on, running through the crib.
December 30th, 2008, in Atlanta, Georgia, just outside the city, DeAndre Way was with friends, marking the release of his second album. However, a group of men came crashing through the door, letting shots off and changing the scene in the worst way imaginable. The intruders weren't random thieves. They came with an intention. They shouted for everyone to get down, pointing weapons and demanding money, jewelry, and phones, making it clear they came for more than just a scare. One carried a shotgun, another waved a pistol, and they pressed the guest to the floor. Soulja Boy slipped away, found a gun he had hidden, and returned firing.
Walk up to this, take his mask off his head, looked at it, saw who it was. I'm like, damn. Shot his ass again. Bow! He screaming, ah! Fuck!
By his own account, one man was hit several times before the others ran off. For many, it was shocking to imagine the teenager behind Crank That in a shootout inside his own living room. However, the break-in didn't happen in isolation. It was tied to how Soulja Boy had been presenting himself since blowing up a year earlier. DeAndre grew up in Batesville, Mississippi, a small town without the kind of gang structure found in larger cities. Crank That became a viral hit in 2007, spreading through MySpace and YouTube, making him one of the first rappers to ride internet fame straight into mainstream charts. Overnight, he was rich and widely recognized. That success also brought new expectations. In rap, image matters. For some listeners, Soulja Boy was too playful, too clean, not connected enough to the harder stories that gave weight to other artists' music. All those comments made him try to shift gears. He started by building SODMG, short for Stacks on Deck Money Gang, presenting it as both a label and a crew. The change didn't go unnoticed in Atlanta, where he moved after his breakout. The city had long established Blood and Crip sets, along with other crews with deep ties to the streets. Locals watched a teenager from Mississippi claim gang through a music imprint and flex wealth without the backing of real affiliations.
Blood, I remember the Blood gang, you know what I'm saying? When I was in Atlanta, I was running hoop around. I've been gangbanging since I was 11 years old. I've been fighting my whole life. I've been knocking out since high school.
Soulja Boy leaned into the role and carried himself like someone ready for confrontation, posting photos with weapons and talking openly about being armed at home. He threw parties, invited crowds, and showed off the lifestyle, luxury cars, diamond chains, and stacks of cash online. In interviews and songs, he mixed in lines about guns, beef, and defending himself. That kind of visibility caught attention, not just from fans, but from those who made money targeting people who flashed valuables. A young rapper with no strong ties to local sets looked like an easy opportunity. The men who entered his house that night seemed to know what they were walking into. Later accounts suggested it might have been tipped off by someone close to the circle, pointing out that valuables were on display and the house was full. Afterward, one of the robbers even appeared online, claiming involvement and taunting Soulja Boy by name. He started pulling up in neighborhoods tied to actual sets, sometimes filming or taking photos to show he had respect on the blocks. Videos circulated of him surrounded by locals presenting himself as though he belonged there, but those trips often ended with him being pressed.
You know, niggas be dying. These niggas
Usual.
You know what I'm saying?
Usual troll and I want Soulja Boy to shut the fuck up and stop taunting it.
In some clips, men questioned his authenticity, calling him a pretender. He felt like being seen on those blocks was a way to push back at critics who called him soft. To others, it only underlined the gap between the image he projected and the reality of where he came from. Instead of securing credibility, it sometimes left him exposed to ridicule or worse. On March 25, 2022, Yus Just was out walking in his Bronx neighborhood when gunfire suddenly came his way. Rivals spotted him and shots rang out, hitting him in the back and lower body. It wasn't even the first time Yus was brushed with danger. He'd already had another close call before, and while it made him a bit more cautious, he kept pushing forward with his music. But at what cost? Yus grew up in Mott Haven, one of those parts of the Bronx where different groups control the streets. He started rapping at 18 when he was trying to find his voice in the Bronx drill scene, a style built on heavy beats and lyrics about street life. People often see him as a wannabe, mostly because he jumped into drill acting like he was already a big player, even though he was new to it. His sister, known as Scotty 2 Hottie, also jumped in, making her own songs and standing beside him. She made sure people knew they were siblings, using that connection to get more attention. Yus leaned into a tough image fast. His songs and videos were full of call-outs, hand signs, and block claims. His circle is tied to OY, short for Original Youngins, a crew with long-standing issues against others in the Bronx. Tracks like Deadlocks directly targeted rival Crip sets in Mott Haven, stirring up trouble since older groups don't take lightly to being disrespected by newcomers. Scotty backed him up in her own way, sometimes throwing shots at other female rappers, other times hyping up her brother's lines. And together they tried to present themselves as a united front. Things really escalated when Yus started poking at bigger names. He went after K Flock from DOA, questioning his reputation in his music and trying to carve out space by challenging someone already respected in the scene. He also clashed with Shaw GZ from OGZ, releasing tracks like Seizure Boy that openly mocked him and his crew. Even mainstream artists like Lil Che weren't off limits. Yus used interviews to explain the beefs, pointing to things like block claims and street credibility. Scotty often chimed in too, saying female drill rappers get the same kind of pressure, though she didn't push things as far as Yus did. But those moves came with risks. Crews like DOA and 41 have roots in respect, and Yus's constant disses made him a target. He acted as if nothing could touch him, regularly posting about running into rivals or spinning through their neighborhoods. To some, it looked like he was trying too hard to prove himself, and that only drew more attention. Scotty's verses added fuel too, as she started calling out places and people, making it seem like both siblings were taking on the city together. That kind of energy doesn't go unanswered in the Bronx drill scene. By dissing names directly and tying himself to heated rivalries, Yus put himself in the crosshairs. He also had smaller conflicts, like a dispute with D-Thang's manager over allegedly stealing weed, that showed how quickly minor issues could spiral in this environment. Eventually, it caught up with him. The March 2022 shooting was no accident. Rivals had waited for the right time and used it to make a point. The bullets weren't just random violence. They were a message that his disses and challenges weren't going unnoticed. He had already escaped one earlier attempt on his life. But this time the shots landed. Even though he survived, the danger around him became impossible to ignore. At the core, Yus Juz was still a teenager using drill music to build a name. He and his sister leaned on their family bond and a loud, confident image to get attention. But in the Bronx drill, words don't just stay in the music. Calling out bigger sets and mocking rivals turns lyrics into real-life threats. By stepping into that world and treating it like a stage, Yus ended up facing the harsh reality of how quickly it can turn physical.
He testified that he was a member of this gang, but that he was basically doing it as a publicity stunt to promote his career.
In October 2017, a kid with rainbow-colored hair is standing in front of a camera, surrounded by men in red bandanas. They were flashing guns, waving cash, and making a video that looked like they were recording a gang recruitment tape instead of an actual music video. Now the kid in the middle is a music star, Daniel Hernandez, better known as Tekashi 6ix9ine. He was a former deli worker who figured out how to dress the part and make noise loud enough to get noticed. Initially, Daniel didn't grow up with a gang family or a legacy in the streets. His father was killed when he was just a kid, and he was raised by his mother in Bushwick, Brooklyn. He was just 13 when his stepdad died, so money was tight. He then dropped out of school, working odd jobs to help his mom. That kind of struggle was real. But it wasn't the same as being tied to the crews that controlled neighborhoods. He sold some weed and small amounts of heroin here and there. But he wasn't running with a set or holding down blocks. He was just another teenager looking for a way out. By 2014, he started experimenting with music. His earliest songs weren't gangster raps at all. They were just loud, strange tracks that pulled inspiration from anime and internet culture. Then, he started putting himself out there, but nothing about those beginnings suggested he would one day call himself the hottest thing in New York. That change came when he decided to flip the switch on his image. Around 2017, Daniel reinvented himself and made the rainbow hair, the giant 69 tattoo across his body, and the grills became his persona. He wasn't just rapping anymore, he was performing a role, and it was designed to grab attention in the social media age. But there was one piece missing. In rap, especially in drill and street scenes, an image only works if people believe it's rooted in real life. And that's where the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods came in. Tekashi only linked up with them for what was basically a business deal. They gave him a backdrop of authenticity and people with actual reputations to stand next to in his videos. In return, he gave them money, clout, and a platform. He later admitted that it was all about image, as they were using him for resources, and he was using them for credibility. It wasn't loyalty, it was marketing. At first, when Gummo dropped, the formula worked. The video had every gangster cliche in the book, and the internet ate it up. He turned Instagram into a stage, posting stacks of money, jewelry, and constant taunts. He shouted Treyway in songs and interviews like a slogan, but he wasn't the one moving with authority in the background. He joined scuffles at airports or outside clubs, but those were for attention more than anything else. Even smaller incidents like choking a kid who filmed him without permission showed someone trying to act hard, but not grounded in the discipline or structure of gang life.
O block right here? I should call this O block. It's 10 o'clock. What the f*** is that? It's only 10 p.m. What the f*** nigga blood?
Tekashi wasn't just flashing the 9 Trey name for clout, he got reckless with it. He was online trolling rappers like Chief Keef and The Game, starting beefs just to stay in the headlines. But by 2018, the drama left Instagram and hit the streets. Tekashi paid $20,000 to 9 Trey member Kintea, Kuda B. McKenzie to shoot at Chief Keef outside of Manhattan's W Hotel. Nobody got hit, but it proved Tekashi wasn't just playing online games anymore. He was bankrolling real violence. Then came April 2018, when Tekashi, Shotty, and other 9 Trey members robbed a rival they thought was tied to Rap-A-Lot Records. Tekashi even filmed it like it was content for a music video, just that it wasn't staged. They had committed a felony. Meanwhile, he sat in the car as a lookout while his crew waved guns. Tekashi tried to cut ties with 9 Trey since he was fed up and they were bleeding him dry, so he announced he was firing his entire team. including his 9-Trey affiliated management, blaming financial mismanagement. As we all know, you don't just fire a gang. His move provoked people like Anthony Harv Ellison, who already had issues with him because, in July, Ellison and Al Jeremiah, Nuke Mac, had kidnapped and robbed Tekashi, clearly informing him that he wasn't as safe as he thought.
I've been covering the Tekashi 6ix9ine case. Tekashi has finished his testimony, and whether or not he is going to be given leniency with his sentencing remains to be seen. It's a big deal because he's looking at 47 years to life in prison.
Tekashi underestimated the reality of the gang world. Instead of looking authentic, it made him a liability and a target. Later that year, the whole game crashed down as Tekashi was arrested on racketeering, weapons and drug charges, facing up to 47 years in prison. But what did he do? He flipped, and he cooperated with the authorities. In 2019, 6ix9ine took the stand and testified for 3 days against his former gang, revealing the gang's structure, internal beef, and illegal activities. He named names, described gang rituals, and even linked rappers to blood sets. He admitted that he only used the gang for music videos, protection, and credibility, while they used him as an ATM. His testimony was what helped put them away, but it stamped him forever as a snitch and has made him a target within certain circles. After his testimony in court, his lawyer complained that he had been getting death threats and needed to be kept safe. In March 2023, Tekashi was assaulted at an LA fitness gym in Lake Worth, Florida, where 3 men confronted and beat him, resulting in injuries that required hospitalization. The incident was recorded and widely shared online. Following the incident, 6ix9ine addressed the attack, emphasizing his desire to live a normal life without security, which contributed to his vulnerability during the assault. In August 2025, Tekashi's close friend Ariela La Langosta Mejia Polanco died in her car. Investigations revealed it was a targeted hit, looking back to the fact that she was once kidnapped during 9Trey's fallout with Tekashi, and she testified against 9Trey members, a dangerous move that put her in their crosshairs. When the performance turned into real-life crime, he didn't have the stomach to keep playing the part. Instead, he ran straight into federal protection when the lights went out.